Hilton here with Sophie Silverman from A.G.Secure HomeWatch, and we are here today with Aaron Barber from AB Electrics. Thanks for coming with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. To talk about some of the issues that you could come across in a vacant or an unoccupied home with electrical issues.
Yep.
Yeah. So, would you recommend unplugging any necessary items while somebody's away from home? Or
I would always recommend to unplug most items in your home if you are worried about them. If they're plugged in and we do get a power surge, or just the fact that you could have load on the circuits and it could potentially, if something started arcing and it's plugged in, it could cause problems. So especially TVs, anything that you really is valuable with power surges, if you're going to take off for an extended period of time, I would definitely recommend unplugging those items.
Okay, great.
So, and also too, yeah, like if depending on what you have plugged in, and especially with a lot of stuff now with circuit boards, sometimes it'll magically turn itself on, and you just never know. You don't. If you're gone for a month and there's load on the circuit, and maybe you do have a loose wire somewhere, it could potentially cause issues if you're not home.
Right.
So.
Right.
Can you review the different types of wiring and their hazards?
The different types of wiring. With units, the biggest problem we have is when everyone has aluminum wiring. It's an easy fix to simply copper tail it and go through a house. Just with different types of wiring. With some of these units, you just the older wiring can be okay, but it should be definitely looked at over time. And especially stuff, if you ever notice devices, plugs getting loose, you're better to take care of it sooner than later, because that's probably, I'd say, the biggest with fires and anything is that things break down over time and they can cause problems. And another thing for people to look for, or any property, if you have a breaker panel, you should always once a year go through that panel and flip those breakers on and off a few times, for the simple fact that it's a mechanical device and they can seize on, so they won't trip, and that can be a hazard as well. So it's always good if you go through your panel and make sure those breakers are working.
Right. Okay. And I know you touched on it a little bit with the power surge, but what exactly is a power surge and how does that impact things?
Basically, it's when the voltage, instead of our standard 120, 240, power surge, if a transformer blows up, could potentially put 20,000 volts into your house. For instance, 2-3 weeks ago, was Saga Beach. Someone hit a hydro pole, had a little car accident, and it caused several subdivisions in Wasaga. I had several calls, whether it was from insurance companies or other service companies, and basically meter bases had blown off the wall. Fridges, freezers, anything electronic is toast. GFIs will potentially get fried, arc fault breakers. It can cause a lot of damage. And it can potentially be stopped by simply spending about $300-400 on a decent surge protector to protect your whole home. The thing to watch for with the surge protectors, though, is there is different, when you buy a surge protector, there's different ratings for surge protectors. So if you get the cheapest one on the market, it might not be rated as high, and it might not cover you for as much replacement value. So if you spend a little bit more, a lot of the times it'll give you a lot more replacement value for all these devices.
Right.
Okay. I was wondering about the CSA codes. How often do they change, and do consumers, should we keep up to date with that?
Yep. The code, they release a new code book every 3 years, but there's actually always, as an electrician, there is updates happening all the time that we can go into the ESA's website and simply print them off and add them to our code book. Some years, lots of stuff changes, and some years, it all depends, right? So, but yeah, every 3 years we get a new code book, but any consumer can go on ESA's website, and it's very informative. You can actually look up different electrical contractors in your area that are licensed, and you can basically, all the information you would ever need is on ESA's website. They have constant newsletters, bulletins about safety, any sort of safety. The biggest code update we've had in the last 5-10 years, though, is definitely arc fault breakers. It's caused a lot of cost to go up on some of these properties, but it has stopped fires and arcing drastically. It's a nuisance trip, and we do get service calls out of it because power tools, big vacuums will trip the breaker. But we've also seen instances already where something started arcing, that breaker trips out, which stops a potential fire from happening in your unit.
Fire hazards, what's the biggest electrical fire hazard?
It really, in any unit, I'd say your panel, everything starts at the panel. So when you're getting into fire hazards, you definitely, like I said, it starts with even just keeping on top of resetting breakers and the panel, because you don't know what's going on inside, and stuff does get loose over time. Whether it's the panel or plugs in the wall with the hot cold always changing in exterior walls, which will cause stuff to get loose over time. But when it comes to the panels, last week, I come across a panel, and if you have so much as a knockout an inch big, you could potentially get mice or any sort of rodent in there making a home, and it's a potential fire hazard, and it could cause problems down the road. Pretty much a lot of electrical, if it visibly doesn't look right, you should probably get it checked out, because a lot of the times even just a loose plug can cause a fire, so.
Yeah, that's great advice. So do you have any other stories?
Oh yeah, we do come across some interesting stuff though. We have come across, we see a lot of people use old speaker wire. We've even come across TV cable that was actually used as a conductor, and we cut it and it blew up, and you should never see that stuff. I have come across services where farmers have vice grip cables back together and taped it up. We have actually seen Band-Aids used as morettes. And this is all the stuff we find, not so much in newer homes, but some of these old century buildings, and you can open up walls and it's amazing what kind of goodies you'll find in there.
Right.
So.
Right, and amazing in some of those cases why it didn't cause a fire already.
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
lucky.
Well, we've actually had a unit too, and once again too, rodents are a huge problem for electricity because they want any source of heat in the winter.
Right.
We've gone in and they have chewed the outer jacket of the wire clean off. They won't touch the actual wires, but they for 10 feet clean the jacket off the wire and use it all for nesting.
Right, which then leaves that wire exposed.
It leaves it exposed, and it can be very expensive to try to fix it all and refeed it.
Yeah.
So definitely not just electrical, pest maintenance would be a definite, because even attics we come across where a chipmunk or a squirrel gets up there and will chew the wire. So if you get rodents running around, it can often lead to many electrical problems, and they can be very hard to diagnose to find the problem.
Right, because it's behind the wall.
It's hidden in the wall and you don't know, right? So. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, you've given us lots of great tips, and hopefully you found some information that's been useful as well. I'm definitely glad to have you, and thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Erin.
If you'd like to find out how we can help you, you can visit our website at www.A.G.Secure HomeWatch.ca. You can email us at info@AG.SecureHomeWatch.ca or give us a call, 249-888-9061. Thanks for watching.